Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brock Beard from LastCar.info, and welcome to Behind the Wall, the post-race show that comes on after the race, where unofficially we have race winners in both the dual races. We have drivers who have transferred into the Daytona 500. We have Joey Logano winning in race 1, Chase Elliott winning in stage 2, and your final two transfer drivers in the field, Casey Mears from race 1, massive accomplishment for Carl Long's team, Motorsports Business Management, aka Garage 66, and in race 2, Anthony Alfredo, old Tony Sauce, getting the Beard Motorsports car into the show there as well. A little bit of a different kind of show here today, of course, airing this right after Fox airing their documentary on the passing of Dale Earnhardt 25 years ago. We lost Dale Earnhardt. We'll be talking about that on the show here as well. I think just in terms of the order, I was thinking of talking about the documentary first, but I think we'll do the duels first, and then I'll talk more about the documentary, and then I'll dovetail with the 500 Days documentary. I think I'm still kind of internalizing what to think about from there. But right off the bat, I mean, my goodness, a share of drama in the dual races here after the first half of both races was relatively calm. Had some very aggressive racing out there, and hopefully we see something very similar to that in the race itself. It's unfortunate with the crashes and drivers tangled up in that, but a lot that was at stake here at the same time. So again, unofficially, Joey Logano, your race winner from Duel 1 over Ryan Blaney, Austin Dillon, Brad Keselowski, and John Hunter Nemechek. Legacy Motor Club off to a strong start in the duels again after Nemechek's run in Daytona last year. But again, the big driver that stole the show there was Casey Mears. Absolutely thrilled for him. The first Daytona 500 he has started since 2019 when he finished last driving for Premium Motorsports. And the first time that Carl Long's team has qualified since Timmy Hill was kind of the media darling of the 2020 running and getting that car into the show back then. Carl's come very close to trying to get a car into the field, especially in the next-gen era. They had Chandler Smith in the car and unfortunately tore it up in that event. And wouldn't you know it, in this case here, beating Chandler to get in the race there with a aggressive Derek Cope-like move on the final lap. Big wreck unfolds going into turn 3. Mears keeps his foot in it, just barely misses a wrecking Corey LaJoie, plows into the back of Daniel Suarez's car, and still manages to keep that car under power. And at the moment of caution there, being ahead of both Chandler, whose car was damaged in an earlier incident, and the wrecking Corey LaJoie there at the same time. So some late race fireworks. It's never over till it's over. And that's one of the thrilling things about that there at the same time. So congratulations to Mears, the Mears family, and Carl Long and the folks over there at Garage 66, a hardworking group of people. We saw them back over at Phoenix just last November. They were scooping all the rubber chunks out from behind the fenders of the 66 car there. And, it's good to see Mears get the recognition he deserves for the career that he's had, reaching another career milestone in his number of career starts. And, now getting out there and being able to run the 500 there. Some damage to the nose of the car, of course. Some thing would happen there with all that at the end, but a solid run out there for him. Finishing in the 8th spot, classified 1 spot right behind Daniel Suarez there at the moment of caution. Shane Van Gisbergen coming from the back of the field to 6th. Ryan Preece and Alex Bowman rounding out your top 10 in dual race 1. A race, again, not without its share of heartbreak for sure. I mean, Corey LaJoie's deal there, coming within just a few thousandths, excuse me, I'm still coming off the cold from last week, just a few thousandths of a second from beating Justin Allgaier to get the car in on speed, this being the number 99 for RFK Racing. And the RFK group having the added good fortune of having all of their cars in dual race number 1 and running at the front of the field there to actually try to hang on and look like they were going to basically just, have the race to themselves, kind of like Stuart Haas did at Talladega a few years ago, and looked very strong. Chris Buescher in the mix there with everybody else. Unfortunately, things started to go sideways there, literally, with a stack up behind Bubba Wallace. Just a big wreck down the back straightaway there. Chris Buescher involved in that, trashed his car, had to drop the window net when he couldn't get out of the grass there. William Byron, who incidentally is my fan pick for the 500 on Sunday, looking to win his third straight 500, will have to do so. Apparently in a backup car. I haven't heard anything yet about if they're repairing that car or just going to a backup. But the fact that car was crab walking, getting back to pit road, seems like it's going to be a difficult situation there for him. But, again, not that has not happened before. Matt Kenseth won his second 500 in a backup car. Davey Allison won his first in a backup. And those are just a couple examples I can think of right off the top of my head there. So we'll see what happens with the 24 team. They end up in the next to last spot. At the very beginning of the race, seemed like everybody running very conservatively. Fuel mileage, again, rearing its ugly head here in this race. Stretching the fuel as late as possible, and then by the time everybody dives down pit road, Mears himself involved in an incident there with Noah Gragson, some wheel hop going on to pit road, spinning each other out, and Mears getting the benefit of the new package with the lift kits in the car. We saw that in effect. A decent job by Fox showing how that works, and him getting back out onto pit road, and saved his day. Lost a lap in the process, got the lap back from the Bubba Wallace incident there. Was in the right place at the right time, just trailing the pack, had a monster run. Incidentally, at the beginning of the race, watching the back of the field there and tracking the last place thing, Mears had a pretty good run on the high lane at the very beginning of the race from the tail end of the field there. So hopefully whatever they figured out to get that car getting through the draft as quick as it can, hopefully that's something that they figure out once again in their repairs to this car going forward. But again, still just a difficult situation here for anybody that misses the show. We had a very competitive field here, drivers that were really trying to get back into the mix. Corey LaJoie was, once again, just like the Clash last Wednesday, right in position to transfer into the main event, was within about a half lap of doing it, was right up there up front. Unfortunately, things things got stacked up, and it was just a real problem at that point. Excuse me. But I gotta say, it was a bold effort. I know people, have hot and cold feelings about LaJoie himself and his racecraft and everything. But he was running more than well enough to deserve a spot in the field there in the show. It's just unfortunate it just didn't quite work out there in one of the Biffle tribute schemes out there in the 99. And he doesn't know what next plans are for him as well. And, we'll see how that turns out. We saw him make a few starts last year with Rick Ware. I don't know what the plans are with the RFK team in the 99 there. But yeah, a couple of difficult weeks there. Unfortunately, that's just the way it shakes out. And it's difficult when you see a driver have to go through that in a couple of consecutive weeks. But we'll find out what's going to look like on the other side of it. Of course, he's going to be competing in the Truck Series race tomorrow, as he mentioned. So it's going to be interesting to find out how all that shakes out for him and the effort that he's working with out there as well. I was about to say with Spire, but actually he's with Henderson's team for Friday, which is the team that should have won the race last year with Parker Kligerman before the disqualification of the number 75 truck there at the same time. So, again, the best and the worst at the same time there too. Chandler Smith touched on him there as well. Looked like he was going to be at least within striking distance of transferring into the main event. Unfortunately, got some damage to the nose of his car. Seemed like he actually escaped that wreck without any too serious of a situation. But on that last restart, just couldn't get his way back through the field again. And just a difficult situation for him. He ends up in the 16th spot there out of a shot of getting into the main event. It was kind of a toss-up, it seemed like at first, whether it was going to be him or Mears, depending on where Mears was on the track. But Mears was definitely capitalizing on it as best as he could there at the same time. One of the events from this week that may well be decisive in the 500 this weekend, and again, we have not had a pole sitter win the 500 since Dale Jarrett in 2000. Excuse me. Sound like Wilbur Cobb from the Ren and Stimpy here. But the story of Kyle Busch, I mean, what a tremendous effort. Winning a pole for the Daytona 500. I believe they said it's his first pole for the 500. Just tremendous. After a year last year where he just seemed just out to lunch at a number of times, still trying to find that form they had from at least 2023. Um, it was to not only be fastest in the first round, but then come right back and match it again and have a great run in the second round and defend that pole. I mean, how many times does a driver have to win a pole position? It's crazy. But the man made it work, and it was a tremendous effort for him, and it was good to see at the same time. And I think the moment that could, determine perhaps how things turn out in the race. We don't know how things are going to be on Sunday between now and the practice sessions we have between now and then. But a brilliant move by him to back off and stay out of the main pack there when he got down to the last couple of laps. He did it just the right time before the big wreck happened there with Bubba Wallace and Buescher up there at the front of the field. And that may be what helps him in the 500. And again, his pursuit of an elusive first 500 win, him and Brad Keselowski and others there looking to end similar streaks there at the same time. He ends up in the 18th place finish, but may not have had enough to really go for the win in this one. Didn't see him up front really during this portion, but we'll find out how things shake out from there. The Penske Racing teammates, though, are going to be very tough. I mean, Ryan Blaney's going to win a Daytona 500 eventually. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but they seem to be the only ones that can make that high lane work really consistently there at the end. And indeed, that was decisive. And then them getting up front, Logano pulling off the win, leading twice for 15 laps. Blaney didn't lead in this race, but it felt like he did, at least to me watching it. He seemed to have a very good car out there, but it just didn't quite shake out there at the same time. We'll see where things work out there at the end. Ross Chastain, AJ Allmendinger, and Corey LaJoie completing the bottom five here. Again, all of them involved in the last lap incident, but we'll see about that. Oh, wait a minute. We have a call about Alfredo's oh, no. Okay, thank you so much for bringing this up in the chat. I was not aware of that. Okay, I'm glad we led off with this. Let me get that note. Oh, man, that is got to be heartbreaking. Oh, my goodness. When did this break? Just a few minutes ago? I didn't see it reload on this. Oh, my goodness. And that gets McLeod in. Wow. Oh, my God. Oh, man, I'm seeing Alfredo's post from 20 minutes ago here about him making the 500. No, I have not mentioned that here at the moment. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. I haven't seen BJ McLeod. I got BJ McLeod's interview here about that. Oh, my God. Okay. For a second here, I was wondering, okay, we got an interview with Carl Long. Wow, we got a ton here, too. All right, what was the situation there with Alfredo? Thank you guys for the heads up here on that. No, I was not aware of that. Why is my feed still not showing it here? All right. 13 minutes ago. Oh, my God. Seeing this from Pockrace's feed here. Well, okay, I'm glad I jumped into just talking about the first race so far. I touched on race 2 a little bit, but where is it? Excuse me. Okay, this being 14 minutes ago from Bob Pockrace's tweet here. News from Tech, Anthony Alfredo had his finish disallowed. BJ McLeod's car still being inspected now to determine whether his car gets in the Daytona 500. So as far as I'm seeing, oh my goodness. Yeah. Just wow. Okay. Well, if BJ McLeod gets back in there, probably the first time in a few years he's made it. What was it? I think he was in 2019 driving for Rick Ware. So it's been a few years for him. And then the 78 car usually has had just, bad luck there. And at the end, skipping ahead, we'll talk about race 2 here as this news is breaking on here. Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't write too much of the article. I had some bits on J.J. Yaley there in the same event. He had all kinds of problems there at the very end of it. But Anthony Alfredo, at the time, was doing about the same strategy Kyle Busch had at the end. He was at the tail end of the field there. He lost about 4 seconds at the finish. but it was still about 20 seconds ahead of BJ McLeod, but they finished nose to tail otherwise in the rankings, 18th and 19th, but with a good amount of racetrack between them. BJ looked, very upset about the fuel mileage racing there at the same time. But again, pending the results of this inspection, and we'll see what else is happening here at the same time. Could be that the 78 makes the 500 field. It already looks to be that Alfredo's already eliminated. I mean, if it's, if BJ gets in or if it goes back to Yaley even, I have no idea. I mean, I guess it depends on, I imagine they're probably hanging on to the 44 here at the same time. So we'll see. But I mean, I hate that for Alfredo. I mean, we were just hearing in the interview how crestfallen he was about missing the show last year. The Beard Motorsports team, of course, having struggles there with the passing of Mark Beard, the team's owner, and trying to plug away there. But I've had the good fortune of talking with Anthony before at Sears Point. He's a good kid, but he's got to be just devastated there. So I hate to hear that. But again, back to, the same deal as first one, another late reversal of fortune here, and getting BJ McLeod into the field, the Live Fast Motorsports team. The Superior Logistics sponsorship there on his Chevrolet. Looked like it was mostly unsponsored in practice, but this was at least his listed sponsor for the event. I believe they used to back the Motorsports Group a few years ago. BJ making the field. I mean, that would be absolutely massive for him and that team. They're now being the super speedway specialist here after selling their charters, scaling back. We've seen some brilliant runs out of him at Talladega and Atlanta as well. As much as I'm not a fan of the Atlanta track, I think he's really kind of found that as another place to capitalize on some good runs. This would be a massive shot in the arm for him and his team. So hopefully that's going to be the case. And hopefully also a little bit of retribution after those notes from the offseason here, the Steve Phelps notes, or the other those people in NASCAR that were talking about derisively about the small teams out there. It would be wonderfully sweet for him to make the 500 field one way or the other there. So we'll find out if that's going to be the case. I imagine we'll probably get some more news about that as the show progresses here. My goodness, it'll be that would be massive for him. It kind of reminds me of Kirk Shelmerdine getting in at the last second back in 2006 and how he parlayed that into a 20th place finish that year. Maybe BJ can work something out like that this year. We'll find out one way or the other. JJ Yaley kind of touched on this. We're kind of going into the race 2 analysis here. Chase Elliott winning. Carson Hocevar, strong second. Yeah, he looked very aggressive. I saw a lot of comments here in the show about this. But, just a very aggressive run, getting a good starting spot for the 500. Kyle Larson in third. Michael McDowell in fourth. So 2 Spire cars in the top 5. Christopher Bell rounding out the top 5. Josh Berry, Ricky Stenhouse, Todd Gilliland, Ty Gibbs, and Denny Hamlin rounding out your top 10. J.J. Yaley being your last place finisher. Spot changed a number of times between, you had B.J. McLeod there at the back for the early laps. Justin Allgaier took it over when he was kind of just staying out of the way, keeping his nose clean after being locked in on speed. Still like the way that paint job looks. It looks way better than last year's. My sweatshirt actually just came in this week. I almost wore it for the show here today, but maybe I'll wear it on Sunday. We'll see. Traveler Whiskey car looks great. Even in spite of being in the back of the field, still managed to lead the race for 2 laps on the late exchange of pit stops there. But J.J. Yaley, he was right behind B.J. McLeod with about 15 laps to go. Still in the lead pack. Hadn't really had too many issues. And then some kind of issue happened where he was trying to come down pit road, and then he slowed down and then just missed the entrance as everybody else was coming in. And then he came around and he did it again. And then there was something where they said over the radio, it sounded like he had brake issues, that he just couldn't slow the car down. And there, time and time again, he kept coming around. It looked like he was going to come in, and then he wouldn't, and he'd stay on the track. And every time he did that, of course, he's losing more and more ground. Pretty soon he's a lap down. He finally comes down pit road. He has radio issues by this point. He can't really, he's saying something about the pedal going to the floor. You can't really get communications from the teams very clearly, even on the HBO Max one. He has the very first pit stall at pit entrance. Gets in there, and then the fuel man can't get the fuel canister to engage properly on the car. So he goes back out there, and he runs out of fuel. Comes on the back straightaway, runs out of gas, and has to limp his way back to pit road again. and they take even longer getting the fuel, and he loses 3 laps. And really about the only driver that had any real problems in the race. The only driver didn't finish on the lead lap, in fact, in the event there. So I just hate to see the struggle, especially after how close they came to getting in the field before racing Jimmy Johnson off the final corner. Here, of course, Jimmy already locked in from race 1 with the exemption provisional. Yeah, just a rough deal for the Jonathan Cohen effort. Again, we don't know what's going on with BJ McLeod in inspection yet, at least from what I'm hearing. Definitely let me know in the chat if anything else comes up. Yeah, that's, we'll see what's happening there with the organization. But, okay, and Wilson Webb, I see your comment there as well. A cooling hose not being attached properly. I mean, what a rough situation there. My goodness. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm gobsmacked. But again, I'm not unprecedented. I think, what was it, 2007? I think Jeff Gordon won the dual race that year. And then in the middle of his interview in the media center, he was told that his car failed inspection and Kurt Busch was inherited the win. And ironically, Kurt Busch and Tony Stewart, that was the year that both of them pretty much dominated the first part of that race before they wrecked each other 3/4 of the way in the event. And then it led to it being Kevin Harvick's win over Mark Martin. But that was one of the storylines from that year. And then you go even further back. We got Josh Berry doing the 1976 throwback on the Wood Brothers car. I think it was 76, where like the top 4 qualifiers were all eliminated from technical infractions. And Ramo Stott inherited the pole. So, again, you never know what's going to happen. Yeah, having something like this happen in a qualifying race. I think there were a couple disqualifications of locked-in cars. I think both the JTG guys, if I remember correctly, had 1 year. Because I remember I wrote the articles, and then I looked at the stats later, and it showed that both those drivers were disqualified and brought to the back of the field. So it was a whole different, lineup from there. So, of course, we're going to, wait on that before writing the articles, but we'll find out what the story is there. A cleaner race in race 2 than race 1. Certainly, the drivers participating in that event were very happy with that, not to mention all the Gibbs cars were in that race. Connor Zilic being up front briefly for a lap there, but finishing back in the 15th spot. Last Pro was predicting that Zilic was going to be really strong, maybe win his duel there. Did not quite work out this way, but he certainly wasn't the worst driver in the field there either. So we'll find out what happens there too. I need to rewatch the finish of that race too. I was kind of getting this set up here about the same time. But again, kudos to Chase Elliott for pulling off the win. As to the broadcast itself, I saw, I certainly share the frustrations with the commercial breaks so late in the race. I couldn't help but think back to the Talladega thing I covered in 500 Days, where it had the went to commercial break about 10 laps to go in a race that was green flag all the way, and you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, lost about 2 laps of coverage from that. Yeah, and doing this in a dual race where it's even shorter makes even less sense. And so I don't get it. I mean, especially if it's already going to be moved to FS1, I don't see what the hell the point is to jam as many commercials in there as possible. But there you go. That's the nature of the TV contracts, I suppose. But working all that out. Again, the broadcast, I mean, pretty, I don't know, just kind of unremarkable. None of it really stood out to me. It sounded like Clint Boyer and Kevin Harvick were kind of repeating each other, and I kind of tuned them out pretty easy. I couldn't help but notice how much Harvick is starting to look like Jim Carrey in the booth there. He was kind of doing the Jim Carrey Grinch thing with, something with his mannerisms was just kind of off, and it just kind of felt a little distracting to me. But I don't know. I'm sure they're all trying different things and stuff like that, but I don't know. It was fine. It was, again, kind of like the Clash. I think the Clash broadcast went a lot better. This one felt just kind of milquetoast and not really that remarkable. So, which was unfortunate. The best parts of this broadcast were where they just let the drivers show emotion, kind of like what we saw at the Clash with Ryan Preece. Certainly the interviews with Casey Mears and at the time Anthony Alfredo were wonderful. I'm glad they just let them speak. They didn't ask them a bunch of stupid questions or interrupt them or anything like that. I appreciated that because that was good to see. That's one of the best things you can watch from these dual races is the people that get the transfer spot and how relieved they are, and describing the path it took them to get there at that point. That's really cool to see, and it's unfortunate that this one now here is a bit complicated there with the disqualification of Anthony Alfredo, but we'll find out how things shake out there too. Yeah, no, I did hear about the Gregson disqualification. We did have that. I had to start at the back of race one because of that, from sticking his hand out the window. Honest mistake. I could see where all the drivers, especially the front row guys, it seemed like front row and Penske were like the first guys to really figure that out at Atlanta, wasn't it? Like, I guess Logano was the one that had the webbed fingers. Was that the case? It was something like that. But it seemed like the Ford teams were like really jumping on that at the same time. And I guess just for Gregson, just a force of habit. They probably practiced it all off season, and then this rule came through like last week. I remember it was like right around like after the Clash, you had this rule, and then they talked about the change to basically the top open team qualifying into the Daytona 500 from the dual races, which I agree with. I think that the qualifying speed thing made it too complicated, especially with there's this few open teams attempting the races. May as well just have it be the top finisher. It makes it way easier to understand. Unfortunately, again, here it's a bit more complicated, but that was certainly unforeseeable. So, yeah, a little bit of everything here too. Yeah. Novi Ranger 88, thoughts on the Brian Vickers situation? Well, that one I think is still coming together. It's concerning. It's certainly concerning. Having seen, I think I touched on this during the 2011 Daytona 500 stream, because Vickers kept coming up in the race. I forgot he was actually still in that one. I thought that was part of his the blood clot thing he was dealing with at the time, but he was certainly in it. As to what the implications of all that are, we're still getting our hands around that. And this isn't necessarily the most hard news show out there, but it's definitely concerning, and it should be treated seriously. And I hope that it is being treated seriously. It doesn't necessarily mean, again, it does need to be investigated, and I'm hopeful that it's being treated as seriously as it should be. And I'm sure we'll be talking more about it when we get more revelations on that. And of course, it's not like this is coming out of nowhere. Obviously, we had heard about implications about, what his wife was involved in and so forth. Again, I don't want to go too far into the weeds there, because will be revealed in time. So hopefully that effort continues. Yeah, again, don't have too many notes here on this. I mean, compared to last year with the dual races, and the controversy we had with the last lap caution freezing the field. Yes, we had a caution at the end of this one with the wreck in the first one, and the factor of like how that was going to, determine whether or not Casey Mears made it into the race. That seemed to be resolved pretty quickly. It wasn't nearly as controversial as the Eric Jones versus Austin Cindric thing last year. It kind of is, what it is at that point. But, again, I'm going to be very interested to see what we have in the race. We got a lot of banged up cars. We still have a couple more practice sessions to work through, and find out how all that shakes out. In terms of drivers to watch, I mean, yeah, the Penske guys are going to be very, very tough. I was disappointed that Cindric was not a bit better in this race. I don't know what happened to his car, or if he just got in the wrong place at the wrong time. Lastbro picked him to win the 500 on Sunday, and he may well be a factor. I mean, we saw him in person win that Talladega race, and it was impressive. Maybe not the most competitive Talladega race, but the man still prevailed in that one. We'll see how that works out there too. But the RFK team having 3 of their 4 cars in the show, still going to be a good lineup. Ryan Preece, certainly, feeling his oats after not only the win in the Clash, but the wins at New Smyrna since then. And just being in a great headspace right now, and coming out of this race with a 9th place finish, after leading twice for 38 laps, fantastic for him. So I think he's going to be really good in the race, and a great turnaround there after that scary accident that he had in this race last year. He's going to be, I think he's going to be in a good position. And then, Brad Keselowski back from his injury, gets in the top 5. He's going to have a good starting spot in the 500 there. Should be in the top 10 there. It's going to be really interesting to see what he does. And then Chris Buescher going to, I suppose, a backup car unless they're repairing it. Seems like, excuse me. Seems like AJ Allmendinger is getting repairs on the 16 car. There was pictures already of them removing one of the side panels on the 16 to get him back out. But we'll find out what the deal is with the 17. I think it was smart for him to not to drive that car all the way back to pit road, maybe risk tearing it up. I'm surprised a little bit they didn't try to do the air gun thing like they did with Mears to get him back off the ground. It seemed like he got stuck in the grass the same way. But again, maybe that's for the best, and we'll see what happens there. We'll find out between the next couple of practice sessions and so forth coming up. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting field. Whoever it is, whether it's BJ McLeod or JJ Yaley or whoever gets Alfredo's spot, it's certainly going to be an interesting story to follow too, and certainly wish them the best there at the same time. So we'll find out. But yeah, love the Biffle throwbacks. I think they came out beautifully. We're seeing this in the Truck Series with Al Neese's team, and as revealed on my social media this week. And big thanks to Robert over at Norm Benning's team for sharing those pictures. Norm Benning running Biffle numbers on it. Both Norm knew Greg very well. Of course, both of them having a very similar background in aeronautics, in private aircraft, and having that passion for it. It's definitely something that he wanted to do and was very happy to do it. And, adding that onto his truck there this week. Hopefully they have some good speed. I understood they struggled a bit in practice today, but we'll see how things shake out for them in qualifying. And then the main event, hopefully, on Friday night. Going to be a very stacked field in that race as well. I mean, we got all the Cup Series regulars. I posted the weekend preview, my entry list storylines article yesterday. There were just a ton of stories to cover. Ended up being probably one of my longer articles on there. But if you're looking to catch up on who's where and who ends up where, including Anthony Alfredo, if he, with his disqualification, it's not really the end of his weekend. He will be in the Xfinity race I believe he's in the second car now for Viking Motorsports. And I know there was some owner points moves and so forth, but we'll find out how all that shakes out there at the same time. So we'll see what's happening there at the same time for the the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Excuse me, got to start filling the swear jar on that to get used to that one there too. That brings up another competitor from the Truck Series there. Again, I talked about Chandler Smith very briefly, and the DNQ for him at the same time that the 66 car makes the show with Casey Mears 1 year after Chandler's wreck there in the 66 car. And this time around, his third DNQ already in the duels. Very surprising given his aggression. And, you usually see these younger drivers in these high, well-heeled rides, and he's had it for 3 different teams now. Between colleague, Carl Long's team, and now Front Row Motorsports. Still can't get it in the show. I don't know what's going on there, but it just becomes a difficult situation, and it's going to continue to be whatever his plans are going forward there at the same time. But again, not the end of his weekend as he prepares for the Truck Series race tomorrow night as well. So we'll see what the story is there. Yeah, Trucks race is an all-star race. Yeah, pretty much will be. Let's see here. Bianchi is confirmed. Okay, thank you, Joshua. Let me check that as well. I'll check Pockras's as well. There's probably another update on this. Okay, we also have an update from Pockras a few minutes ago on backup cars. We were just touching on this here a minute ago. Daniel Suarez will go to a backup car after he was rear-ended by Casey Mears at the end. Excuse me. I was trying to get an appointment with my doctor today, and I just did not have enough time before the dual races, so we'll try to figure that out in time. Any rate, add Suarez to a backup car after he was rear-ended by Casey Mears in dual race 1. Suarez is now one of 4 drivers that will be sent to a backup car. That does include Ross Chastain, who was also wrecked at the end of dual race. What was it? Dual race? Was it still dual race 1? I think it was. Yeah, that's right, because there wasn't any wrecks in dual race 2. And then William Byron and Chris Buescher are going to backup cars, according to Pockrass here. So repairs to Allmendinger. We saw that from, again, the pictures there earlier. And I guess repairs to Mears. But backup cars for Chastain, Suarez, Byron, and Buescher. So that will be a different issue there at the same time. Let's see. No appeal for this disqualification for Anthony Alfredo. It'll be treated as a time disallowed in qualifying, says NASCAR Cup Series Director Brad Moran, this being from Pockrass's announcement here at the same time. So again, and there's a show here of the cooling hose discussed here at the same time. So, yeah, my goodness. Okay. So, tell you what, folks, I'm going to take a step aside here. I'm going to get a drink of water and do that, and then you don't need to see that on screen here at the same time. And I will jump back. We'll talk a bit more about the duels here a bit, and we'll talk about the Dale Earnhardt documentary as well as 500 Days. I think that'll be a relevant discussion on that. Yeah, I apologize, folks. A cough wasn't really that bad during the race, and I was like, oh, I can get through the show, okay? And then it just kind of came back. So we'll get it worked out and all that here at the same time. So hang on there, folks, and I'll be right back. Alrighty. Okay. We are going to, yeah, Winston Cup water break. That's exactly it. Yeah. No, we're doing okay. It's not as bad as the one I had last year. That one where I lost my voice, that was actually scary. It lasted so long. And luckily, I started treatment with a different doctor. So hopefully that guy will hook me up and we can move past this one too. So not a sponsored show, by the way, but we'll do our best we can here. So, yeah, so unofficially, well, now I was about to say it was the 17 and the 44 finishing last in the duels, but it will now be Anthony Alfredo getting the last place finish by disqualification in duel race 2, taking the spot from Yaley, and the 62 actually has finished last in the duels before. The 44 actually had not. Let me do this here as well. Let me get the last change graphic up for you guys as well. We'll put that up on there. Boop. And there it is. Yeah, I'm glad we did this show when we did. I guess it broke like towards the end of the Earnhardt documentary from this. Oh man, and all these pictures of Alfredo. Oh man, I'm gutted for him. I mean, that's every bit as bad as what happened with LaJoie there in Dual Race 1. But I mean, again, that's part of it. The Daytona 500, there's many that are saying about like the quality of the racing in the Daytona 500, and does the race still have the same prestige that it's always had? It has. All you have to do is ask these guys on the bubble, and they know that's the case. They're wanting to compete in this race. They're wanting to, have that moment, and that's certainly the case there too. Excuse me. God dang. All right. So, at least that was not as deep. All righty. So yeah, on this note, let's see here. Officially disallowed. Okay. Thanks to Davey Siegel's got a good picture of the 78 here getting looked at. I'll retweet that as well. Yeah, just a little bit of everything here at the same time. So, yeah, let's see here. Yeah, that's more or less what I have mostly on the Cup race. I think I was starting to talk about Norm Benning there and the Greg Biffle throwback on his truck. Picked up a couple of sponsors. Had one originally on the number 6, and then another backer came on board there on the quarter panel. Looks like they still don't have a sponsor on the hood. So if you are interested in sponsoring him, the contact for Norm Benning's email can be found both in that Twitter thread as well as my press release that posted last month. And you can check that out. Let's see here. Going back down here. Where is it? There it is. Yes. Insurable Incorporated, based in Pennsylvania, is one of the sponsors for Norm. And the other one is the Waterloo Company on board there at the same time. Waterloo Appliance Service on the number 6. So some old school sponsors there, as well as a sign company, which did the wrap on the truck, including the decals for the number 6 on there. Simple paint scheme on a white base there, but it'll be one that'll stand out at the same time. I have not looked really at the Truck Series practice, but I guess we can touch on that there too. We'll talk more about the truck race as well as the O'Reilly and Cup races, of course, in our next show, which will be on Sunday after the Daytona 500. And hopefully by that point, the lozenges will definitely kick in and we'll be good to go that evening. Looking at the practice results from the Truck Series race, we'll go into that. Caden Honeycutt, what a great start for him. Driving Corey Himes' truck and, got to the Final Four in the championship last year for the driving in relief of Stuart Friesen. Comes back out and is the fastest truck in practice. The only, let's see, what's the margin of victory? Only 9,000ths of a second over Taylor Gray in one of the other Tricon trucks there as well. Grant Enfinger, the top Chevrolet, in the 3rd spot over Michael McDowell, the top Cup regular, and Cole Butcher in 5th. The top rookie contender. So a lot of big names, or a good mix of names, rather, at the top of the field. Timmy Hill in the 6th spot. Good effort for him. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. looking for his truck debut. Driving for Al Neese in one of the Biffle designed schemes there as well in the 7th spot. Dawson Sutton, your last place finisher at Phoenix last year. In 8th, Giovanni Ruggiero. In 9th, your Talladega winner. And John Hunter Nemechek in the number 62 in the 2nd Hallmark truck in the 10th spot. Good effort for him. Clay Greenfield, the slowest truck, with just 1 lap completed, 6 seconds off the pace. Norm Benning next to last in the Insurable Incorporated Chevrolet. The slowest Ram is Minnie Tyrrell in the 35th spot. Top Ram is, where is it? Is it? Gosh, they're all towards the back of the field. But I think it's Brendan Butterbean Queen down in the 27th spot. So definitely some work cut out for the Ram group here as well. Perhaps those OEM provisionals are going to actually come into play a little bit here. Yeah, we'll find out what happens at the same time. Seeing a lot of the comments here as well. Yeah, very excited about BJ McLeod and good for him getting in the field there. I'm sure he would have rather it not been under these circumstances, especially after he immediately congratulated Anthony after the finish of that race. Again, they were 20 seconds apart. Position wasn't really up for grabs on the final lap, but it is what it is. At the time, it seemed like everything was square, and then unfortunately, technical infraction there for the 62 team. So that was the situation there. Among our DNQs here from the 500, Corey LaJoy, 20th fastest in the built Chevrolet for the Henderson Motorsports team, right behind Stuart Friesen. Good to see Stuart back in the field after his injury on the dirt track last year. This being his first start since then. He's been making some appearances at the tracks since that. Frankie Muniz in the 28th spot. Yeah, goodness. Cletus McFarland in the 23rd spot. So again, not at the back of the field, not at the top of the field, but right in the mix. Actually faster than Tony Stewart. Stewart back in the 31st spot among those Rams with the puzzling lack of speed here at the same time. So they do have their work cut out for him in qualifying and perhaps in the race itself. So we'll see. We'll see what else happens. Yeah, it looks like, BJ passed tech. So congratulations to BJ McLeod, and we'll get him featured in there. I was starting to say, I was about to say this before I took the break here. I will be doing a starting grid for the Daytona 500. I'll edit out the coughs, and we'll get that going there too. I have a graphic design I worked on yesterday, kind of improving on one of my previous ones. And hopefully you guys like it. That'll probably won't be ready until Friday night, Saturday morning. And get that up for you guys. My first goal will be getting the articles done, and then we'll get the video done after that. But that'll be a good lead in. And that'll certainly be one of the stories. We'll get to introduce BJ McLeod. Well, that'll be a lot of fun there at the same time. The OEM provisionals, Dane Mann, I see your comment on that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of like the idea in terms of maybe encouraging another OEM to get into the sport, although I know that's not what they were intended for. I know it's intended so that Ram doesn't just rage quit again and leave the sport like they did the last time. And hopefully they, get an exchange for their money. I don't like entitlements. I've been very consistent on that. I think that, if you want to beat people, you got to compete. And if you're not ready, then you better get ready. And if you're not fast enough, you should get faster. I seen people bitch about Josh Rheaume's team getting spots that are higher in owner points. Well, it's like, those other teams should have run full time and beat them. I mean, what else do you say? So, I see the frustration. I understand it. But if you're not going to compete, you shouldn't be entitled to the benefits of that. But, I know there's complications where you got people that put a lot of money into it and they expect to get in. But I'll tell you what, in 2001, the Dodge teams didn't ask for anything like that. And they didn't get it, and they still raced all of their guys in. So, the Ram guys may just have to toughen up and figure out a way to do that. But that'll be another one to figure out there too. Everclear Funny, thoughts on the NAS cooler? Yeah. I think it was, what was it? Was it NASCAR Chasm or something? Said it was a wonderful troll. I'd have to agree. Who knows what the hell it was going to be from the ads going into it. I think NASCAR just having a little bit of fun, and I can't hardly fault them that. That's fine. There's that part of it too. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So anything else in practice? Yeah, we got Cletus. It shows Cletus Mitchell. Why does the results still show that? That's weird. But yeah, I mean, put Cletus McFarland, put Garrett Mitchell, whichever way you want to do it. Like, it's, same dude. But kudos to him. Also, by the way, I mean, he passed his test at Rockingham, got to compete there. His announcement came out, about the same time that Keselowski was cleared to run the Daytona 500. This is something I hope through this weekend we're going to get a lot of, but I don't have a lot of faith that it's going to happen. But it kind of reminds me very much of Daytona 1989, where we went through a very difficult season where, Bobby Allison was critically injured at Pocono. where Richard Petty was really starting to struggle, had a very difficult speed weeks. And you had other drivers that were longtime figures in the sport that just left. Cale Yarborough stepping away, Benny Parsons stepping away. Other drivers, Buddy Baker got injured around the same time, although he made other starts through then. The sport was going through a big turbulence. And what I thought was nice that Ken Squire did then is he said that this was a story about people. It wasn't just about the competition. It was about, the people, what they're going through, and what they're trying to overcome. And I think every year has that to one extent or another. But I think this year, that's certainly central to this. And I think taking it a little bit more seriously, maybe slowing down just a little bit, and really emphasizing that would be important. Certainly in the case of Denny Hamlin, certainly in the case of Brad Keselowski, the fans of Michael Annett, and of course what happened to the Biffles, and then the other victims of the plane crash. I think it would bear a time to slow down a little bit and, still have fun, still celebrate the spectacle of the sport, but really emphasize the human interest stories. I would love to see more of that with the current field, but I'm not sure how much faith I have on that at the same time. But that should be the emphasis of it. And probably the other time that should have happened was back in 2018 when you had Dale Jr. and Matt Kenseth step away. And, then you'd already had Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart step away. That should have been the time to really emphasize the stories of the new drivers that were there. And there was a massive missed opportunity there with that. Guys like William Byron and Alex Bowman, who are now, pretty much household names in the sport, as much as one can be these days, that could have been started way earlier and really kind of emphasize how people should be fans of these drivers and who are the new old school drivers and who are the new faces out there. Every once in a while, the broadcast should slow things down and do that and understand the importance of it. I mean, I think that the personalities are a big part of what makes the sport that compelling. And of course, it's certainly why, people would pick one driver over another to be their favorite, of course. So I think that's something else that needed to kind of work on there too. I'd love to see that this weekend. I don't have faith that that's going to happen. I like that they're trying something with this Hell Yeah advertising campaign. I saw questions about the Times Square billboard, gimmicks and little things like that. I mean, I don't think that much of them, but they're not for me. They're for people that aren't interested in the sport and just kind of get them to go, ooh, what's this? And like, okay, if it does that, hell, I'm not going to step in the way and poo-poo all over it. But I'm also not going to be impressed like it's the most brilliant thing ever that's ever happened. So that's kind of the way I feel about that. I just want to focus back on the racing. Like, I mean, the spectacle and the danger and these are exceptional people that compete in this sport. I would like that to be emphasized. I really would. And it's too bad we don't have we're getting closer to a point system that rewards that focuses on that. We need to get back to having a car and a racecraft that encourages that too. But we're getting there. We're taking important steps that way, and I'm pleased in that sense that we're getting there. So hopefully that'll be another part of that too. That one ad, the ad that they played during the race tonight, where there's a guy in the Mustang and he's talking to you and stuff and all that, and kind of emphasizing that's a bit closer because I liked that it didn't just show crashes; it actually showed racing, and that it showed historical moments and modern ones, and it kind of emphasized, the culture of the sport and the Americana of the sport. I think that is desperately needed right now. And again, I have nothing against international competitors in the sport. I mean, heck, we had Helio Castroneves last year. We got Shane Van Gisbergen making his own name for himself in the sport. That's wonderful. But what makes it wonderful is that, it is this very American sport. It has this unique identity that it isn't Formula One, that isn't IndyCar, that isn't sports car racing or power boats or monster trucks or anything else. It is entirely its own thing. And that needs to be celebrated more. And I hope that we're getting there. If it takes a loud billboard, okay, great, sure. But I don't think that's the end all be all thing there too. Yeah, the Daytona Day ads, that was a misfire too, because that just misrepresented the sport. Again, rest in peace, James Vanderbeek. I mean, nothing against him. He was, they brought him on board there for that, and heck, he was actually the best part of that ad. But the promo was not smart. It was not smart by NASCAR because it's speed weeks, and they're already shortening speed weeks to 5 days by that point. You really can't pretend that it's just one day. Like, that's insane. The last day is the best day, I would say, because the 500 is a special race and it should deserve special attention. But it's not the whole thing. The journey to get there throughout the week is such a compelling story. I mean, just today, perfect example. What we're talking about now. So I think that's really a big part of it. So that's good. So yeah, so people like the Hell Yeah program. They like the loud leaderboard. Great. I think that's great. I'm not going to stand in the way of that at all. So, and again, I like the ad campaign they did. I like the commercial they did. I like the commercial that Anthony Mackie did last year for the Daytona 500. I hate that I didn't see it until after the 500 was over. I wish I saw it before the race, but I'll watch it before the race this year because I know it's going to get me fired up. The only problem I had with it was that it showed too many crashes. It showed too much. It made it look like crashing was the objective, and that was a problem. But I think the Hell Yeah one is actually better because it is different in that sense. So at least that's the way it felt to me. So I don't know if that was the case. So that's good. That's good. Yeah, I think that was another part of it. Let me check my notes here too. Gosh, I got so much to talk about. We may still have stuff that kind of carries over into Sunday's show, but we'll figure that out here in the meantime. That's an older note there. Yeah. No, that's an older note too. Yeah, I don't need that right now. But yeah, I think it's it's better. So and I'm pleased. There's so many things. I mean, I may end up doing a video on this sometime. I mean, there's a whole stack of videos I have in mind, and it just takes forever to put them together. But yeah, no, I have plenty of reason to be positive about things going into this season. I like that we got the chase format, at least one or two at least big steps towards a full season championship. I like that Eric Brennan is getting involved in the Truck Series broadcast. Unfortunately, it sounds like he's not going to be part of tomorrow's, which isn't great because Daytona's race, this is a big event and it's going to have a lot of big names in it and it's going to have a lot of great stories in it. And I know they're just going to let him slip through the cracks if they just do it remotely and they do the Jamie Little led broadcast is not going to be very good, unless she really worked on stuff over the off season. And I'll give people the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not holding my breath on that one. Much like the same thing with the human storylines there too. But they're improving the cars. I like the added horsepower. I like the way the cars sounded at the Wilkesboro test. I like the way they raced at the Clash. Unfortunately, the weather went to hell there in the second half, but in the first half, that was a perfectly reasonable short track race. I'd love to see what these are going to do at Martinsville and Bristol and so forth. Maybe even Richmond gets to be watchable again. We'll find out. Richmond's had good strategy lately, but to have the racecraft actually be good, that would be something to see. So we'll find out there. A lot of new personalities, a lot of new team changes. You got Ram coming into the Truck Series. We got more open teams this year. I love that. Anything that gets more teams and more drivers out there and more chances for people to be find their excellence in the sport. Yeah, that's great. So these are all big changes. And honestly, some of them very surprising. I mean, the number of changes in the top 3 series, like just how many people moved around, mammoth. Probably reminds me of like 1994 or 2001, where you just had an influx of money or teams or just excitement, I guess, of things in there. I think that's wonderful for the sport, and I'm encouraged to see it, and I hope it's something that sustains through the rest of this year. I'm already seeing comments about we got the other competitors competing in the St. Petersburg race in the Truck Series. Dario Franchitti among them. Hearing about these races coming up. So, we'll find out. But I'm excited about a lot of that. And the San Diego race, of course, getting ready for that in June. I think people should be very excited about that, and that's good. So hopefully we get a good start to this weekend. Hopefully the weather cooperates. I know there's mixed reports about that, but it's Florida, so That's just going to be the norm. So we'll find out if that's going to be the case there too. Let's see here. Yeah, Ralph Shaheen and Alan Bestwick. Yeah, I agree with you on those too, as well, for sure. Yeah, hopefully they get more personality. I know people kind of laughed when I said that the Hell Yeah ad actually showed a bit of the driver's personality. Not a lot of it, but I mean, at least showing like, Kyle Larson and Cletus McFarlane and Ryan Blaney and these other guys and letting them, kind of do their thing. Like, that's fine. I mean, it was just really brief, but, I understand that when you really got to get people's attention really quick, so you can't do it in a real long way, at least not initially. Show the highlights and then get some intrigue. Like, ooh, okay, who is this guy? And why is his wife shotgunning beers? It's like, okay, maybe you want to learn about that. That's good. That's good. That's all you got to do. There's a number of drivers. I like that they're doing it. I like that I like the other ad that showed, what was it, Noah Gragson and Carson Hocevar. The one where like the narrator cuts in just a moment too soon and all, where they're kind of doing these little segments. That was good. Hopefully we're going to get closer to having ads where the drivers are interacting with each other. I know there was a video that was posted earlier today about, drivers, talking smack about each other and, who's most likely to cause an accident or things like that. Yeah, that's great. I want something closer to the Coca-Cola commercials where they're all in the same room and you're hearing them play off each other. I think that would be really good. Hopefully we get closer to that. And the NASCAR Classics page. Talk about another thing I'm very excited about. They just posted some more of the Classic 125 races today, including 2001s, which I featured in 500 days. Fantastic race. Great racing on there. And NASCAR Classics is killing it with their social media. The clips they're sharing, this footage they're revealing that I myself have never seen. Whether it's Winston West paint schemes from Vegas in like 1998, or there was that one clip just this week where they did like a rapid fire shot of it was like probably like 40 different drivers, team owners, reporters, broadcasters, and it was a wonderful test to see them all. And I think there were still like 2 or 3 of them where I was actually stumped. I'm like, okay, I don't know who this is. But then it was fun seeing ones like, okay, there's Eddie Bierschwal and there's Mickey Gibbs and there's Connie Saylor and there's these guys. You can tell it was 1989 because it had Jody Ridley and the Bill Elliott hat because he was driving in relief for him. And Alan Kowicki and JD McDuffie and Derek Cope were all in it. Great. That was fun. That was fun. Let's see here. Kevin Harvick said Casey Mears wasn't experienced coming down pit road in the next gen car. Yeah, I missed that, but that's silly. Mears raced against Harvick when he won his Daytona 500 in 07, but okay. How quickly we forget. That's a problem. That's just another issue with the small teams in general. When you're small, you get stepped on. It doesn't matter what you've accomplished up to that point. We just see an example of that. So that's just a part of that. Let's see here. There we go. Let's see here. Joshua P. Boston. Let me. I'll read these off here right quick here as well. Duel 1 was not ideal. Thank you for your super chat for $10. First of all, Duel 1 was not ideal, but Duel 2 was much cleaner. Congrats to Logano and Elliott on winning their respective duels, and to Mears and Alfredo, now McLeod, racing their ways into the 68th annual Daytona 500 on to Sunday. Yes, absolutely. I share the excitement. And I thank you so much again for the super chat, for sure. Again, great storylines. I want so much of that. I think that I hammer it a lot, but it's so important. And there are some seasons where it's even more important. And I think for all the emotions that everybody has gone through this offseason, and particularly those most touched by the tragedies from this past offseason, I think it is probably the best time to really do that. And I hope they've done that. I know it's still early yet. We just had the duels. We're just starting to have practice sessions. But hopefully tomorrow through Sunday we get to the truck race, the ARCA race. Haven't really talked about ARCA that much here. And the O'Reilly race in the Cup Series. I hope that's a big part of it. I hope that's at least a noticeable part of it. And it's not just, the hooting and hollering and all that. Let's kind of get into that at the same time. So fingers crossed at the same time. But again, thank you so much for the super chat there, Josh Boston there as well. I do appreciate it. Mr. Bad Guy, I don't know if I got this, read this one back at during the Trevor Bain stream the other day, but I'll read this one off here as well. Thank you for your $2 super chat. I really want to see some more Bain starts in the O'Reilly series. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Talk about drivers getting back into it. We got Tony Stewart for the Truck Series race this week, and so forth. And yeah, Trevor Bain, when he competed at Vegas for Gibbs, he was solid. He was right up there. Had some neat looking paint schemes too. He's got some interesting partners in his sponsors there at the same time too. So I'd love to see him get some more efforts out there. I wouldn't mind even seeing him in the Truck Series. He ran Darlington a couple of years ago, and he wasn't too bad there either. Trevor Bain, I know it's very easy for people to think of him being a flash in the pan for his 500 win, but he's a good little driver. And for what he's overcome in his life, it's tremendous what he's been able to do. And yeah, he's a good commentator. He's solid there with that. And, I would be fine seeing him get more opportunities as well. So, Mr. Bad Guy 51, I agree with you on that too. And I said I was going to do this from the 500 Days show the other day too. Big thanks to those of you. We had over 300 people in the chat room for the 500 Days episode. I want to make sure I read off their super chat here as well. Where was it here? Had it on my phone, wherever I had it. Okay, nope, it was earlier than that. Nope, not there. There it is. This was, that's right. There was also you, Joshua Boston. So thank you again for your $20 super chat back on Monday for the premiere of the latest 500 Days episode. For the first time, Dale Earnhardt's not in the field. The rookie Kevin Harvick is about to make his Cup Super Speedway debut, and an underdog team is about to win one last time. Welcome to Talladega, boys. Let's go racing. And, that captures the excitement of the week going into Daytona here as well. So, again, thank you for your super chat from Monday as well. I definitely want to make sure to read that on the show here, and I do appreciate your support as well. Thank you again so much to Joshua and to everybody else that came in for the stream that night. We had a great time there on that. Interesting stories there along the way, and we'll talk about that. So I'm going to take another break, and when I come back, we'll talk about 500 Days. We'll talk about the Dale Earnhardt documentary, and we'll wrap up for this evening. So stay tuned, folks, and I'll be right back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so welcome to the final segment of the show for this evening. So, quite a packed Thursday. I'm glad I started doing these Thursday shows last year because when I tried to cram this all into the Daytona 500 show, it's just way, way too much, even for the 500 itself. So, yeah, definitely wanted to bring this up here with that, and doubly so with the documentary earlier tonight. So, I do want to talk about the Dale Earnhardt documentary. Now that we're kind of later into the show here as well, and kind of chewing it over here. So we got this news here recently this offseason that Fox Sports was going to do yet another documentary on Dale Earnhardt and focusing on the 2001 Daytona 500. And of course, I'm not immune from that either. Of course, 500 days, although I did intend to just do the offseason beforehand, because I did so many other videos on the 2000 season, kind of ended up being inevitable that it was going to have to talk about the 2001 500. But I'm glad I did, because I think this series has become really interesting and eye-opening in a way where, I have certain memories of how all that played out. And it's even more eye-opening seeing, a lot of these reports and reading these news articles that there is way more complication to it than there was. There was an opportunity, I think, in this documentary with Fox Sports to perhaps explore that a little bit. Maybe that's a little too much to expect in a 1-hour documentary with commercial breaks in it, but possibly. But I will say, and I want to lead off with the positives on this, I think the way they did it with interviews, with interviewing drivers, interviewing members of the team and all that, that was a very, very good strategy. That's the best way to go. I think probably the best videos I produced on my channel have been that good because I've been able to actually talk with people directly involved with it, whether it was, the Brent Martin and the staff that designed the Wacky Racer and the Cartoon Network video, or drivers like Larry Gunselman that were the actual field fillers that I discuss, because you're just not going to know these stories. And you really get to ask really interesting questions, and it's going to be way more interesting than anybody just talking about what's publicly available or even their own memories of it. I liked that they took this approach, because when they did the Amazon one was done, I know that was done by different people. The best part of the Dale Earnhardt documentary they did there, I would say, was certainly the first half of it, or the first, 3-parter? The first third of it. That was the best part of it, because the interviews were so they were so true to life, and they revealed and they're so intimate in terms of the details there as well. The interviews with Doug Richard or Doug Reichert. It's still surprising me that I maybe mispronounced that my whole life, but I swore I heard it was Richard. But with him, with Richard Childress, with Chocolate Myers, with guys like that. Wonderful, wonderful interviews that really gave it a fresh feel. And that was the best part of this one here, which was fortunately pretty much most of it was just interviews. Didn't need to have a narrator in it or anything like that. Just letting these people, kind of tell their story and share it from different vantage points. Whether it was Frankie Muniz as a kid, as a child star that was there as a VIP out there in the pace car, where it was Kyle Busch in the grandstands with his family watching Big Brother Kurt make his first Daytona start. There were some good interviews. They were good interviews in that one, and I liked who they picked in it. That it was a cross section of, first of all, Mike Helton, who said the words to make the actual announcement. Guys like Ryan McGee. I know Ryan McGee sometimes is a little hot and cold with his coverage there, but certainly very passionate about the Earnhardt subject there, and not surprising to see him be a part of this here as well. I was kind of expecting Marty Smith to kind of show up at the same time too. I know that he and Ryan, of course, work together a lot, but still, other drivers, and getting Rusty Wallace, talking about Ryan Blaney, since his father Dave was in the 500 there as well. Good to get a good cross section of that. So that was the right way to go about it, because it's so hard to get any, fresh ground, get any news stories from this. And again, yeah, the Amazon one was probably the best one I'd seen. I think that would still, at least the first half of it is better than this one. But it's almost kind of its own thing. I know they marketed this saying that it's not really about the race or the accident, but it kind of is. It seemed pretty clear that was going to be the focus, and some of the footage they showed was eye-opening as well. Seeing the ambulances pull onto the track, seeing Mike Helton and Dr. Bohannon leaving the media center after the announcement. Some of the kind of behind the scenes look of it, that was pretty eye-opening for sure. There were, I think one of my favorite interviews, I think, was actually Kurt Busch's interviews. I thought that was really good. I mean, Kurt talking about kind of, the foot he was getting off on in the Cup Series, and, trying to find his own rhythm out there, and how he had kind of, he wrecked Dale Jr. at Rockingham. Senior was filling his mirror at Homestead. I featured that moment in one of the 500 Days episodes. And it seemed like this continued into the 500, where they bounced off each other, and Earnhardt flipped him off. Hard to tell how much of that was just, playing around, or if he was really upset with Kurt or didn't really think anything of it. But as with a lot of Kurt's interviews since his injury that pretty much ended his full-time Cup career, the emotion was very raw in that, and I thought that was really interesting. So that was probably the best one on that. So that was really interesting. Jude Fernandez. Yeah, that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot. Is Kurt got into the 97 car late in the 2000 season. That's why he was in the 97. And Chad Little got phased out. I touched on that a little bit in 500 Days, but I know that first episode is kind of a whirlwind with all the silly season changes. But Kurt was taken off that year in the Truck Series, and Roush put him in that car. And, he struggled in the end of 2000. John Deere left as a sponsor, so he came to the 500 without a sponsor. And it took a while to get Sharpie into the fold there for Kurt to kind of make that ride his own. But that's, kind of its own story there. That was really interesting. So I appreciated that. And the other parts of it, though, it's as to what the lessons are learned from it and how it is remembered is still interesting to me, because some of the myths or the sensations about it, it's still interesting to just see those get repeated kind of just, as it is. Yes, it's tremendous that there hasn't been a fatality in the Cup Series, O'Reilly Series or the Truck Series since Dale Earnhardt's death, not during a race or a practice session or a qualifying session, knock wood. Certainly hope that certainly continues this week. Not that there haven't been serious accidents. Denny Hamlin's at Fontana, Kyle Busch's at Daytona in that Nationwide Series race, and then of course Ryan Newman's flip in the 500 just 5 years ago or 6 years ago. Yes, there's been serious accidents, but I like the way that Joey Logano described it, where he said, like, look, that accident, Earnhardt's accidents happened over and over since then. But thankfully, because of safer barriers and, better crush resistance zones and all that, it's not been a serious incident. Although, again, NASCAR got very lucky with that in other cases with this next-gen car and the many issues that it had back in 2022, even in minor fender benders. See, the reality of the story is unfortunately much more complicated. And in 500 Days, by the end of that series, and I do plan on having it go through the 2001 season, I feel that by the end of that series, that will be made very clear. For when you watch this documentary here today, you would get the sense that, these safer barriers, they went up like the very next week, and the Hans device was mandated right away, and all this there. No, obviously, logistically for some of those, it's like, well, yeah, of course it was going to take time for them to even develop it, much less phase it in. But others, yeah, it was not that quick. It was still slow. And it's unfortunate that the events of the 2000 season still don't get their due. I know it's a Dale Earnhardt thing. I know it's going to be just about February 18th, 2001. And I'm not going to pretend that that was, a nothing event. Obviously it was. But it also didn't come out of nowhere. And that's kind of an issue. And I like that Ryan Blaney brought up that, that Dave in his career in the world of outlaws in the 80s and 90s had been through a lot of the experience of losing drivers and that. And indeed, in 500 days, in the same spring between the Daytona 500 and the spring race at Talladega, there were other serious injuries and fatalities in other motorsports at the same time. This was not just going away. And it was something that, was a much larger issue. And there wasn't really, even then, I think perhaps just in the shock of the moment, not a full appreciation of that. And the question is why? Why was that the case? And in this documentary that Fox did, I thought it was very interesting that they talked about the effect that Dale Earnhardt had on the culture in the garage area. That, say these days, if Joey Logano showed up someplace and said, hey, this isn't safe, we should probably be doing this, NASCAR would probably just dismiss and be like, yeah, we'll take that under consideration. But if Dale Earnhardt said it, everybody would drop everything and be like, oh man, we really need to do something about it. But the unfortunate reality of that is that also Dale Earnhardt didn't want to wear a full face helmet. Dale Earnhardt didn't want to wear the Hans device. And, was he as staunch a safety advocate as Jeff Burton was? No, he was not. Now, I agree to an extent of what the documentary says about, you just don't know what you don't know. Yeah, but we did know. There was something very serious that was happening, especially between about 1997 and 2000. And yeah, it's easy to say in hindsight, but when you had 3 fatalities of Adam Petty, Kenny Irwin Jr., and Tony Roper, and, and all that leading into it, where the Hans device did exist, and they're getting it phased in open wheel racing and everything there. There was a complacency that was there. And the unfortunate reality is Dale Earnhardt was a part of that. And it may not have seemed like it at the time because I grew up in it too. And I saw these races and just figured, hey, these guys get banged up, they have these wrecks and stuff, but they're okay. The cars are safer. And there's crews that are trying to make the cars as good as they can be and all that. But it is a dangerous thing. It is a dangerous sport. It is still a dangerous sport. But there was a lack of an appropriate response around that time. And I think NASCAR needs to be honest about that because they very nearly did that again with this car. When it just randomly catches on fire and then the NBC broadcast is like, oh, well, it just happens. Rubber gets in the rocker panel and then it catches on fire. It's like, no, that's not normal. It's like, oh, when the wheel's not secure, the rim carves itself in half and the tire flies off and who knows where it goes, but that just happens. It's like, no. Like 2022 could have very easily been 2000. And don't you forget that. That was extremely dangerous. And there have been casualties along the way. Maybe not full fatalities, but Kurt Busch would certainly take issue with it. Tyler Reddick would for the fender benders he had at Martinsville that forced him to actually get disoriented and he had to get out of the car. Yeah. So, I'm happy for NASCAR that they're celebrating that, that there hasn't been a fatality in that time, but they need to not let their guard down there. And I think they need to be a little bit more honest about their history in this because, it's, and look, this is why they wouldn't interview me for this. So I get that. I'm sure that's the case there too. But that's fine. I got my own series, so I'm not worried about that. And I appreciate that NASCAR is okay with me, telling that story as far as I can tell. We don't get the most hits out there, but I appreciate you guys for supporting the series. And that's something I endeavor to continue to do, in the rest of the series, because just what you saw in the Talladega episode, the fact that Dr. Myers came out with his announcement that it wasn't the seatbelt after Mike Helton and Gary Nelson came out with that seatbelt and started showing it's like, yeah, there was a torn belt. We don't know if it had enough of an effect, but hey, there was a torn belt. And then, okay, make of this what you will. And then all of a sudden, like, this report is about to come out where this doctor says, no, the body would fail before the belt did. So the belt did, torn belt wouldn't have caused the injury. And then right before that, NASCAR steps in and says, nope, we're going to do our investigation. And you're going to have to wait till August to get the results. And it came up like right before the Talladega race too. And it's like, isn't that interesting? It's like, whoa, hang on. So I'm sure there's a way that you would like to experience the events and believe, just from the conclusions of it. But the story is much muddier, and it's muddier than I remember too. Again, it's kind of been a refresher for me going through this and sharing it with you guys there. But I do hope that by the end of the series, you'll get a better appreciation for that moment. And I'm not the only one taking this on too. I mean, Rick Houston did a wonderful job with his podcast Firestorm, talking about the 2000 to 2001 season and what happened in these various incidents. In fact, he did a even better job, I would say, of covering the Tony Roper story in particular in that one. And of course, he was very close with the Petty family and Adam Petty in particular, so had a very personal recollection of those events there at the same time. I think he and I come on very different conclusions as to, the factor of the Earnhardt mystique in the direction of those events. I think I come down much more harshly on that. But that's, again, that's why these things are contested at the same time. I understand that Rick's doing another thing with the Firestorm podcast in some capacity this year. I saw a post on his the Scene Vault thing there. So stay tuned for more of that. If you haven't followed his channel, you obviously need to, because they do tremendous content there, and I definitely encourage you to see that there too. But it was interesting to see, them talking about the Earnhardt, the Earnhardt tragedy and what's been left behind, and what was lost. I think the description of what happened to DEI, how different it would have been with Earnhardt still here versus, that it was it inevitable that team was going to shut down. Ryan McGee came out very strongly in that assessment, and I applaud him for being so candid with that, because I think that's probably a fair assessment, and it's still a tragedy today with the fact that even Dale Jr. can't get in there to see the cars that he raced in the 2004 Daytona 500 and so forth. It's the scars of that are definitely still there. It was an interesting approach. I appreciated kind of the interviews, kind of looking at it a bit differently, but I think a bit more of the context of the time period, and not treating it like it just came out of nowhere, like we were just completely ignorant of this. No, I don't buy that. That's why I've always felt so strongly about what happened in the 2000 season, and in 3 Before February, I really endeavored to try to make that as clear as possible, especially laying it out as a chronology. When the most eye-opening thing with a lot of this, and it's not the only story in NASCAR's past that I think deserves this treatment, if you lay it out chronologically, what happened before what, you get a much clearer sense of it there too. So again, it's obviously we all miss Dale Earnhardt. We all miss him being out there, and as the years go by, where you have more and more people that never saw him race, it is hard to express that. And I get from the other viewpoint, from younger fans, they're tired of hearing about it to an extent too. And I understand that. Lastbro didn't want to watch this documentary. In fact, he didn't really want to watch the end of the Amazon one either. But he was also in the Dale Earnhardt fan club in 1999. For him, I think it's just a different experience that, perhaps he just rather just leave in the past. And I think that, that's understandable. But for, younger people that, that weren't around in that time, it's like, oh, they're doing another one of these documentaries. I get it. And, I think that there's, there's an argument to be made that, yeah, I mean, would Dale have wanted this many documentaries made about him, this much more talking about 25 years later or 50 years later? There's some individuals that are just never going to be forgotten, though. And I think the temptation is there to try to, make as many films or write as many books about it or something like that, or people are just going to forget about him. I don't think that's going to be the case for Dale Earnhardt. When you got people out there that are painting big threes on the sides of their cars, or, put a sticker in their window or something, you got people that don't even know. There are people that may not know who Richard Petty is, but there are people that everybody knows who Dale Earnhardt is. And that's something very special. That's something very unique in the sport there too. And yeah, I mean, again, you see this with other historical figures, and maybe this is just the way it is in this sport. I get where people would be kind of sick of it to an extent, but I mean, I think that's the part to understand is that, yeah, it's kind of so big that it's always there, so I don't know. But, yeah, we'll see. But, yeah, I would like to see, I think it's important to get as much of, these stories as best as possible, and to learn about the rest of the field and other drivers and other teams and so forth. And, I've certainly enjoyed doing that on my channel. I got a couple of projects I'm working on here, and 500 days is kind of, part of that too. It's, definitely the penumbra of Earnhardt is over the whole thing. And, that's kind of the interesting part too. And maybe why the Kurt Busch interview kind of resonated with me as much as it did, is that clip. And there were a couple of fans. I know I had one person in particular, and I apologize, I don't have the I don't have his name right in front of me here, but I know that there was somebody that was very strongly felt about having that clip in there of Dale Earnhardt talking about the yellow line rule and kind of joking about it at Daytona, and wanted to make sure that was in there. And I'm sure he'll remind me in the comments, because I know he was very, he felt very strongly about that. And he was right, because I think that was a big moment. And you can kind of see from the Mike Helton interview, as well as Kurt's interview, when Dale Earnhardt, I think he was joking when, after the Bud shootout, where he's saying like, oh, maybe we'll have an out of bounds line, and then maybe 3 wide is enough, but 4 wide will get you a black flag or something. And he was kind of laughing, and there's somebody in the background, whether it was Steve Burns in the booth or somebody else, they're laughing. But I don't feel like that was ever fully considered until after that Busch Series race at Talladega, where Jimmy Spencer and Mike McLaughlin are chasing each other into the grass. And Mike Helton probably thought back to that interview, was like, yeah, maybe that should be the direction we've gone. And, I don't feel that the yellow line rule has made super speedway racing safer. I think it could be argued it's made it probably more dangerous in some senses, because now you have basically another wall you've created that people can chase each other into. Again, it's, the paradigm was certainly changed after, Earnhardt's death, and that was undoubtedly an effect of that too. And it's interesting to see the way that comes together, because again, the things just don't just happen. There's always a cause and effect there. And I think that was another, issue with that too. And, and again, well, mentioning in the documentary, I mean, when I was listening to the broadcast and I heard Darrell Waltrip starting to kind of spiral off there and say, I told them we need to have an out of bounds. I said we need to do it. I've been saying it for years. And then it's like literally 3 weeks earlier at Texas, he was saying there are no out of bounds in NASCAR. We're surrounded by concrete walls, and everything is, everything else is fair game. Now, you could argue perhaps maybe he was saying that it shouldn't be that way, but he wasn't saying that, that wasn't the case. It's like, this is the way it is, like, come on. It was certainly something, different there. So, that was an interesting one to, talk about there, in the episode at the same time. So, it was an interesting documentary. I liked Frankie Muniz's interview. It's different from Blink of an Eye. It's different from Dale. It's different from the Amazon one, and it's different from some of these other documentaries that have come up. And yeah, I mean, it being 25 years since then, I've been debating about what to do during that. I've saw some people asking about doing something with that, whether it's maybe a rewatch of that race or something. I don't know if anybody would be up for that. Could certainly consider that. I don't really have anything prepared for that day. I kind of turned all that focus to getting this 500 days episode out. But we'll see. That'll be another day down the road there too. So yeah, it was it was interesting. But again, I appreciate you guys tuning out for the episode of 500 Days back on Monday. Getting a lot of great comments on there. I'm blown away. I mean, people, this episode, it did take a very long time to put together, and you could see why. This is the first episode in the series that really covers like 2 solid weeks with multiple races in between. Similar to episode 2 with Speed Weeks 2001, because that one had multiple races within a week. And that was pretty tightly packed there too. But this one here, almost 4 hours long, and there were people, I couldn't believe it. There were 300 people in the chat that were still watching it. I'm glad I put an intermission in there. And hopefully that, that'll be something that I'll be doing for other premieres of longer videos. I'd like to keep that in there. But I was pleased that people were enjoying a longer form content. And I try to keep the pacing, good. I try to keep it kind of lively. I try to kind of group stories together in such a way that they make a cohesive narrative, so I'm not hopping back and forth too much. And try to kind of keep the momentum of it going. It's harder than it looks. I know there was some on Reddit that were asking questions about like, oh, this is just J-Ski just being read at you. It's like, well, no, it's not really that. I use J-Ski as kind of the beginning skeleton of it, but there's way more research that has to come together between the race broadcasts themselves, newspaper articles from the time, press releases, and honestly, just my own memories of the time there too. All that kind of gets combined together with statistics from that time as well. And honestly, just hindsight. Sometimes something comes up where it's like, Chase Elliott's 5 years old and celebrating Easter with Bill. Yeah, something like that that'll put things back in perspective. Or John Hunter Nemechek being in victory lane with his father at the Busch race at Atlanta. If there's anything that I could bring into the contemporary sphere, I'll do it. Because it's all a continuum. It's all connected and everything. So I enjoy doing that, and I anticipate that's going to be coming up. This next episode, it is going to be shorter because I think the next couple are going to be just like 1 week episodes. I'm very much interested in this. It's going to be about Fontana. It's going to be another very emotional winner in that one there, for those of you maybe not as familiar with the race itself. And it's going to be very interesting. I'm just starting the research on that one a bit. I've got a lot of irons in the fire, just a matter of like trying to finish this one and doing that one and all that. But it's a good problem to have. I've been very, very much enjoying it. And it's just a matter of time of getting these things out. So I'm excited to be doing that and working forward as well. So again, thank you guys for tuning in on Monday. And I hope you guys enjoyed the watch along as much as I did. I was hanging out there after work and watching it with you guys. So I appreciated with that there at the same time. And again, big thanks to Sergio Productions for the excellent music. The theme song there, I know people get hyped for that. And also Roman Cynic music. I used some of his music, the theme music in the background of the Talladega race itself. You had a track called Heroic Feet that I remember listening to it. I was like, oh, this would capture it just sounds like a tightrope walk. And I think that was the image that was on the thing. It just sounded like, it was kind of like, okay, what's happening here? And I felt like that would capture kind of the tension of that race really well. And I enjoyed kind of working with that in the video. So I usually keep the music pretty spare in it because I think that it mostly functions almost like a podcast, really. I know a lot of people listen to it remotely when they're at work or driving or whatever, and I try to make it as visual as possible. But, if you're sitting down and watching it, you'll also have video clips and pictures and whatnot to work with. Of course, Brian Hallman at the BRH Racing Archives has continued to be a great supporter of my work, and I appreciate what he's able to contribute there. Indeed, I have a couple ones that he's sent pictures for that I'm very anxious to share with you guys, and hopefully we'll get those done this year. So yeah, it's been a big week, and this is just the start of it. We got the Truck Series tomorrow, the O'Reilly Series and ARCA on Saturday. Is that correct? It's ARCA's on Saturday. And then the Daytona 500 on Sunday, of course, pending weather delays. We'll find out how things go from there. And I think that'll probably about do it. So I think I got everybody's super chats. Let me make sure I did that. We'll hold off on the trivia for tonight. We'll pick up on that in our 500 show on Sunday. So we'll hold off on that there in the meantime. And I think that's probably about it. So we did have the call-in inspection. We know BJ McLeod is now in the Daytona 500 field. So congratulations to him. I see Pockrass just posted a video about half an hour ago. I'm going to start watching some of these clips and kind of getting ready for that in the video. And that'll be the next video on this channel here. Will be the starting grid for the Daytona 500. Again, planning on getting that together in Friday evening or first part of Saturday. That's kind of the goal. Looking forward there on that. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to try to give the Patreon a little bit of advance access to it. It's going to be pretty close because I try to get those grids up about as quick as possible because they always have a very, very limited shelf life, which is why I don't really make them as much as I used to do there. I'm very content, actually. I very much enjoyed the races tonight. I appreciate you guys for hanging in there with me in this Hall's Mentholyptus sponsored show here tonight. Not an official sponsor, but hey, we'll plug away through this, and we'll be back going there very soon as well. I think that's probably about it. I'm probably gonna start repeating myself pretty soon, so I'll let you guys go from there. So in the meantime, my Patreon is patreon.com/lastcaronbrock. My Twitter feed is @lastcaronbrock. And of course, the website is lastcar.info. The articles for both Chris Buescher and now Anthony Alfredo will be featured on the website later tonight or first part of tomorrow. And then we'll lead into the articles for Friday through Sunday. And we're going to get this season started. So going to be very excited. Our next show will be this coming Sunday after the Daytona 500, probably about 15 or 20 minutes after the checkered flag. We'll talk about the Truck Series, Xfinity, I said it again, O'Reilly, and the Daytona 500. We'll talk about ARCA as well. And hope to have you here for it. And we'll go from there. So have a wonderful evening, everyone. Congratulations to tonight's winners. And I'll see you all next time.